Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, but you're going to enjoy this even more, I promise you. We have now Mr. Kenny Myers, master makeup artist. Kenny, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Today. It's a pleasure. You know, we've actually never sat and talked before.
Never.
I don't think.
No, but we've had some pleasant conversations at the trade show.
Yes, we have. And as I mentioned earlier, the PPI people, for whom you are representing today, those exactly, have put on these fantastic trade shows, and you have been at every one of the trade shows.
So far, every one.
Yeah, and doing remarkable makeup.
Thank you.
Each time. It's just amazing how many makeup artists are there representing PPI. Again, a feather in their cap for being such high quality, a high quality company. Now let me ask you this. Scott has mentioned that you have been, from what he has said, an absolute major influence in the development of PPI in the motion picture and television makeup world.
It's been an interesting collaboration, and I often refer to it as lightning in a bottle. It doesn't happen that often in life that the gods line up and shine on anybody. But it has been a lucrative and pleasant and family-oriented collaboration from the very beginning.
Yes.
I first met Scott and Eric through Richard Snell,
Yes.
a dear friend who's no longer with us. We were business partners in Green Marble Sealer
Yes.
and the Green Marble products.
Now, this was before your association with PPI?
Yes. In fact, we were working on one of the Alien Nation made-for-TV movies. I can't remember which one. And he told me he had met some new guys. And I said, that's nice. And he said, and there's a product here I'd like you to try. I said, okay. We were double teaming actually on the Eric, the lead, what we called Potato Head or Aliens from
Yes.
Alien Nation.
Yes.
Lovely man. And
Can I
sure.
interrupt you just for a second?
Please.
They hate it when I interrupt people, but I've got to say this. I'm looking down your resume right here, and I mean, literally, it just goes on and on and on and on. I mean, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Obviously, I know that these are headed by other
Right.
artists, but you've worked on X-Men. You've got Austin Powers, My Favorite Martian. Dante's Peak, Alien Nation, which was a monumental. I mean, talk about Planet of the Apes. Alien Nation was to television what Planet of the Apes was to film.
It was.
I mean, it was just an amazing accomplishment.
It was a wonderful piece of work.
Yeah, and goes on and on. Star Trek, Back to the Future Part 3, Back to the Future Part 2, Star Trek 5, more Alien Nation, Return of the Living Dead. Just on and on. And your career started, even Friday the 13th, Part 3, your career started back in, when was it? The early 80s, right?
Early 80s. I actually rolled into Hollywood in the late 70s.
Yes.
Thanks to a high school, actually junior high school friend named Chris Wallace, who won an Academy Award for
Yes.
his work on The Fly.
Yes.
And-
Remarkable.
Well, he and I had known each other
Great
since
work.
7th grade. Our fathers worked together. So we spent many a summer getting into tremendous chemical problems with caulking and various other substances you're not supposed to put on your face. But we were brave.
Early silicone.
Brave and stupid.
Yes.
We would do anything.
Yes.
And that's kind of how we both got started, was making masks in our
Yes.
bathrooms and gluing them on each other and
Right.
going, I can't get this off. Help me. So I go back a ways, and the very fortunate resume that I've been happy enough to be a part of just comes from being here long enough,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and hanging out and being lucky enough to work with some excellent people.
Right. Chris, he must have started with, it was David Cronenberg, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was The Fly, wasn't that?
Well,
David
actually, I tell
Cronenberg?
you, I remember his first big break. I was literally living at his home for a year when he asked me out to work with him on a small TV project with a lot of masks. And I was theatrically trained, and back
Yes.
in the late 70s, theater in New York was absolutely dying because
Yes.
it couldn't keep up with the budgets that Hollywood was producing, which
Yes.
at that time was way up there, around
Yes.
$2 million. So Broadway was starting to really wind down. Well, at that time, Chris came back to New Jersey to get married. I had said to him, I'm not doing much. I'm doing some carpentry here and there.
Right.
And he said, I think I got something coming up. I'll call you. 1 month to the day, I was on a plane.
My God.
And I never went back.
That is great.
Because in that very, very short time, Star Wars had come out, and the special effects industry at that time was just exploding.
Was exploding. Yeah, it was just taking
There was no
off.
keeping it back, and there was nowhere to go to learn it. There was nowhere to go to learn. We didn't have the benefit of a Joe Blasco school. We had nothing.
Yeah, that was before.
Yeah. So it was all being done
Well, I
in people's
started
garages.
the Elegant School of Makeup in 1968.
I didn't know that.
In 1968, the original
Right.
Elegance School of Makeup. I taught there for almost 3 years. And then I left to go work for ABC Television.
Right.
And the secretary changed makeup artist, what's her name? Oh, I can't think of her name. But she took over the school.
Gotcha.
And then it wasn't until 1974 or 76 actually, that I started my school again,
Okay, right.
my own school again. But why I bring up David Cronenberg is that that's where I got my start. I did. Do you remember the film They Came From Within?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I did all of that.
Oh, my God.
They Came From Within and Rabid.
Oh,
His first
another
two,
great one.
His first two films. I actually sent a fellow by the name of Bird Holland up to Canada to because I was so busy with the school and beginning my cosmetics company that I couldn't go up to Canada. But I designed all of the effects in the armpit
Yeah.
for Marilyn Chambers and the little creature,
see,
with the
those
hot melt.
those are great.
All this stuff, all the early pioneering things, right? And so it's funny, that we kind of start in that same little area. Like Chris Wallace started with David Cronenberg. I started with David Cronenberg, and now I'm finding that you then started with Chris Wallace. I mean, it's like we're all connected. There's this giant connection.
It's a giant wheel made up of small circles,
Yes.
and they're constantly intersecting. You never
Yes.
know where you're going to go.
Exactly.
I mean, you of all people know you can start in this industry working with a small group of people. You may not see them for 10 years.
Yes, yes.
Because you'll go off into another circle,
Right,
and then that
right.
circle will split up, and that will split.
Yes.
And to me, that's part of the excitement of the industry. You're learning constantly because you're meeting new people constantly.
And then when you meet them again after all these years, those that you haven't met in a while,
Yep.
it's just as though you had never left them.
Exactly.
Like, for instance, just recently, I hadn't spoken to Maurice Stein
God.
in 25 years. And I said to myself, I'm going over to the store. I'm going to go over to the store. So we went over there, and the look on his face when he saw me, he was like, it was like, I love the man. So we walked in, we embraced, and it was just, it's like a couple of brothers that hadn't seen themselves in a long time. You've seen each other in a long time.
That's the exact spark that I think made the Makeup Artist Trade Show take off as well as it did.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
it was a once-a-year chance
Yeah.
to catch up with people
Yes.
that you hadn't seen in a
Yes,
while.
yes.
I remember at the very first one, my wife and I literally sat in a booth on the floor for several hours
Yes.
with wig makers
Yes.
and other friends, and it became obvious that it was a hub of information exchange
Yes.
where we don't pick up the phone and call each other every day.
Yes, yes.
So that those circles coming around and closing is incredibly important, and that's what Michael tapped into.
Exactly. And by the way, we have Michael Key on the show this week.
Fabulous.
Oh, actually, no, it's last week. So you're going to have to go back into our past seminars to see the Michael Key interview as well as the Murray Stein interview, which you're not going to want to miss. That's a historic interview. But you're absolutely right. And Michael Key really tapped into a whole another area of communication that I believe helped pull together the makeup community, really pull it together.
Yep.
And I'm hoping that that's what we're going to be able to do with the world makeup community now with MUATV.
Well, I think this is the next stage.
This is the next
Definitely
stage.
next stage.
Now, aside from everything that you've done, now you're gonna come back. We're gonna have Kenny back in the future so that we can talk about his career, where he's from, how he got started in makeup, who his mentors are, his favorite films, his biggest challenges in makeup, and all those wonderful things. But not this time. Not this time. Now it's about premier products. And Kenny was, just as Scott has just explained to us earlier in the show, such a provider of knowledge and information, and we have so many of these products here. Of all of these products, that you helped to develop, and I'm assuming that you brought these products, the Green Marble Sealer, along with you.
Right.
When you entered into the Premier Products company. But these others that you've developed along the way, of all of them, which are you the most proud?
Joe, that is a tough one, and no, I've never had anybody ask it. But more than likely, I would have to say my firstborn, the original flesh tone palette,
The Flesh Tone Palette.
which my wife and I had been making in our studio for about 3 years before I hooked up with Premier Products.
Yes.
And had been working on other colors, but hadn't made the leap away from the original yet.
Yes.
Since I was working heavily at the time, so your nights and weekends were spent maybe getting an hour in here and an hour in
Yes.
there. So now that you ask that very poignant question, I would say
That's what I'm here for.
my firstborn.
The firstborn, the
Yeah.
Flesh Tone Palette.
Yeah.
And that is this one right here.
Right.
Let's take a look at this. Now we're gonna go in tight on this so that you can see these colors. And there's Rice Paper, Natural 1, Natural 2, and Lao 1. That's in the faces of Dr. Lao.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Good
2.
catch.
And Cedar Brown. I love these names. This is Vein Tone. I love it. And Coral Adjuster. That's good. An additive to change your base more to a coral orangey tone. And then warm orangey tone. Olive Adjuster to take it in the other direction. Coral takes it to the warm end. Olive takes it to the cooler end. Then you've got Rose Adjuster that even, I would imagine, really brings it to a much more warm. And you have them all right here. Now, the one I really like about this is this palette is designed for professional makeup artists, because if you really look at these, there's one or two that are actual skin tones, or maybe 3, 4. Most of these on the top level here could be, these are your skin tones from light to dark, and varying tones of warmth and olive already. But what you've got down here, you see, you've got to be a makeup artist. You've got to understand color, to understand when and where to use these adjusters. I used to call them color correction additives. These, I like the word adjuster better. And you're able to, you know that by adding the green to any one of these, you're gonna create more of an olive undertone. By adding the rose, or you're gonna create more of a ruddy undertone. So you have all of this at your fingertips, where you can be creative. It's not just use this or that or this or that, but you can choose from any of these flesh tone colors, but you also have the ability to be an artist, and that's what Premier Products is all about, and that's why they have makeup artists such as yourself who can come in and understand the needs of the makeup artist and to design something that will work as this does.
Right.
So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Your firstborn. Fantastic. Now, I have to say this again, and this is my favorite one. And I guess it's just, I'm from the 80s, when we used to use a lot of glitter and a lot of glitter and glam here. The Alchemy palette, all right? The Alchemy palette, all kinds of body painting, all sorts of wonderful for highlightation, and body painting effects, facial painting effects. I use these for avant-garde eye makeups, and I'm going to be using these during a very, very detailed series of seminars that I'm doing. We're going to start taping in December. This is the Necromania, and this is interesting. Tell us about this.
Well, as you said, this is our first time actually getting a chance to sit down, and why it's a special for me is I have a thank you that it goes out to this palette, which I've never been able to sit down or had time to do. Every one of the what I call the basic palettes or specialty palettes, the core group from which other people make their specialty palettes, came because of a show, something that was needed.
Yes.
And for years, I've carried in my kit a stack of Joe Blasco Death Colors. I still carry it to this day because I never know when I'm going to need it.
Right.
And I looked at that stack every day for years and said, I want this in a tattoo base too.
Yes.
I want it in both.
Yes.
I'm a big believer in layering.
Yes.
There is no one makeup that is the be-all and end-all,
Absolutely.
period. That's one of the things I love about your school and why you've
Yes.
invited us all here,
Yes.
because you're exposing your students to other materials.
Yeah, well, it's not, this isn't just for my school.
Well-
This is for all makeup schools. You have no idea how many people, we're getting letters, emails from teachers in makeup schools in Austria, in Germany, in Finland. I mean, from all over the world, from Australia. And it's, MUATV has really, it's more or less kind of leveled the playing field, and it's enabling now us to not only just teach this information to my students, but also to offer it to other makeup schools and to those around the world who aren't able to afford to go to a makeup school.
Right.
You see?
Right.
And that's why it's so important for them to know about these products. But so the necromania has originated from my death
Your
colors.
death colors.
Well, thank you for that.
No, thank you. for
That is very flattering.
I-
I appreciate that.
The Joe Blasco line, when I started in the industry, was a bit renegade, because up till then,
Oh, yeah.
most of the major suppliers were still stuck in the 60s. And
Yeah.
the cameras and the technology was increasing faster than the technology that was going up people's faces.
Yes, yes,
Well, your line was the only one that was addressing that properly.
yes, thank you.
So as many artists, were kind of looking at you as you're building stuff, going, well, that's right. That's right.
That's funny.
And then going back going, how come you guys ain't doing that? Luckily for us, you were there. And that was one of the early influences, and one that always stuck in the back of my head. I said, well,
Thank you.
I have an homage to Joe to pay.
Thank you.
And a thank you to you.
Oh, you're very welcome. And I appreciate your not only telling me this, but also sharing it with our audience as well. Because there's a lot of, I've discontinued a lot of my original theatrical products. We still carry the death colors. We still have the creative colors. And because we originally had started with an airbrush, we developed an airbrush. We developed a kind of a stay color, so to speak,
Right, yeah.
originally. But there's so many that have come out that have far exceeded the quality and the color range of my original concepts,
Right.
that there's no point for me to even continue manufacturing them, because I would rather help promote the other lines, you see, than to just completely have this huge line of product, which we had for the longest period of time.
Yeah.
And I'm so flattered that others have recognized the value of the original products that I made back then, to be able to improve upon them, as Premier Products has done, and is obviously continuing to do. But thank you for that. This
You're very, very
is
welcome.
very
Very
kind.
welcome. To close one of the circles we started, when Richard and I were using some of the products that he had gleaned from first talking to Scott and Eric,
Yes.
one of them was Super Solve,
Yes.
which you spoke about. And at that time, it was
Amazing.
taking us an hour to get aliens out of makeup so that we didn't hurt them.
Yes.
You know how some of these glues will grab.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And
Don't tell me about it.
yeah, and we got our bottle of Super Solve, and it changed our world. It really rocked it, because all of a sudden we could cut our cleanup times in half.
In half, yeah.
That's what kind of made my eyes go open and go, I want to meet these guys too.
Yeah, there is something, a lot of makeup artists and all of you out there worldwide, you have to understand that you've got to put as much time and trouble and care and thought into the removal of an appliance as you do into the application of an appliance.
Yeah, you
know,
betcha. There's nothing like at the end of the day, the producers are going, get them out, get them out,
yeah.
get them out. You're going, take it easy.
Right.
Let's not hurt them so they can come back tomorrow.
Right, exactly. And Super Solve Plus, this saved my butt. And I explained it earlier, and if you missed the earlier part of the show, you're going to want to tune in, and because the show repeats itself, as you know, and you'll catch the first part of the show. This helped me get to the hospital quickly and to get out of the hospital quickly. So this Super Solve is an amazing product, and it takes anything off, as I said. And so now, let's go through all of the pallets,
Sure.
if we may. And I'm going to just take them one at a time, right here. And again, I've said before, and I'll say again.
Now, I've never seen these pellets before. I have no idea what you're going to show me.
Okay, custom color flesh tone. This is the custom color flesh tone.
Yes, this is the childproof opening
This
version.
is childproof. You know, I don't know what it is, whether I'm getting old or whether packaging is getting childproof or old makeup artist proof. Against the wall to open them.
From time to time, I'll go through, just, randomly, go through our stacks of colors, and I like to glue some of them closed, just for fun.
How did you do that?
Actually,
Show me how you do this.
There's this neat little thing right here. There's one on one side of
I
the
see.
bottom, one on the top, and you just say, please,
There we go.
and off she goes. This particular palette was actually a custom collection done for a New York artist in a school way back, early 2000s, I believe,
me
if I'm
show
not
it.
too wrong,
2005, for New York.
See?
for New York. Was
It's
it a
easy.
school?
It's easy to open when you
know how.
You just have to play with it for a little while. We're having the same trouble with some of our new containers as well. And this right here, this is it says Rob Benvendez.
Is that right?
Is that how you pronounce his name?
Bienvenidos.
Bienvenidos.
Bienvenidos. There you go. And this is a color system for the professional makeup artist, custom collection flesh tone. And there are a lot of really wonderful flesh tones here as well. Some of the same ones from the other palette, I've noticed.
What's nice is that we've got an array of tones now that people can come through and say, I'd like this, for my show, my situation, I'd like this, and this, and may I have them laid out this way, because that's how my brain thinks.
Yes, yes. Well, this is excellent. And you said earlier that you designed a palette specifically for vinyl for pirates.
Actually three, one for each of the pirate movies.
And there was a pirate school that she was
That's correct.
giving it
That's
everyone. And see, now I can.
That's
do
our
it.
complexion
Now
palette.
I can do it.
Very good.
Okay, this is the complexion palette. And again, I have to say, the design, the pictures, they're phenomenal.
We spend a lot of time on the labels.
Great colors, just absolutely phenomenal colors. And these just go on and on. Here's an interesting one. This one here is ACMUS.
ACMUS is the Australian College of Makeup and Special Effects.
Excellent, excellent.
Another school that asked us to put together a kit for them.
Well, I think we're going to have to talk. I think we're going to have to talk. Because I know definitely. that
John Adams.
This is John Adams. Obviously, this is for the show, John Adams. Okay, you can see these colors. And now, did you work the show?
I did not. I was on something else at the time.
I think Matthew Mungle, worked.
Yes, I think
He was
Matthew
one
did
of
do some work for it.
Yeah.
And beautiful, as I recall.
Yeah. This is Dave Anderson's zombie palette. Excellent. That rice paper seems to appear on a lot of these.
Rice paper is a favorite and appears in almost every palette we make.
It's a great light, olive undertoned flesh tone.
Right.
That could be used as kind of like a TV white tone to
Yes, right.
to lighten
Yep,
everything.
yes, exactly right.
Yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful stuff. And we have another one right here. Again, it's like Christmas for me. Let's see if I can do this one. This is, I'm getting it down. Here we go.
This is one of the pirate palettes. Pirate 3
This is Pirate 3.
at World's End.
Aren't those great? Those are great colors. These are deep colors.
All of the pirates were heavily textured for exposure.
Yes.
And it was a beautiful process to watch. I was lucky enough to be part of Pirates 3. I had been asked on all of them at one time or another, and that was one I was actually available to go and play on, and I had a wonderful time.
Now, let me ask you this. Pirate School. Obviously, this was a big part of Pirate School.
Right.
What was the technique that was used? And I know that everybody that's out there, I mean, they've seen the pirates.
Right.
And they see this crusty, beautifully, wonderfully textured skin. And in what way did this product make that happen?
It was actually a variety technique based off the comfort level of each individual artist. V will, in the school, would show how she would do it, or how Ken Diaz would do it. He ran the background tent, and wonderfully. But ultimately, orange sponge was used, white sponge torn was used, dome brushes were used in a
Yes.
stipple technique,
Yes.
and spattering.
Yes.
A simple toothbrush,
Yes,
dip,
just-
and spatter.
yeah.
So each person would cater it to their needs and their comfort level,
Yes.
and as well as the look on the particular actor as well.
Yes, yes. Now, were you in charge of a unit on
I was in
Pirates?
charge of nothing. I was actually brought in to do a particular person. He was called Gentleman Jocard, a beautiful African-American British actor that was brought in, and he had to have tribal scars
Yes.
down his face. And then all of those particular pirates, I think, were part of our New World pirates. So they had a very specific
Yes.
look. He had extended earlobes with
Yes.
earrings and baubles
Yes.
in that. And he had braided hair in his beard,
Yes.
somewhat like Johnny and
Extensions.
some of the other
Yes.
extensions. And so he was a joy to work with. I also double teamed with Joe on the last stage of Bootstrap Bill with the star fish on his
Yeah,
face.
yes.
And it was about a 4.5, 5-hour makeup,
Yeah.
and couldn't have had a better time.
And all the while using Premier products.
Yep.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, now let's. You're at Premier. Give me an idea of the kind of association that you have on a daily basis with the people at the Premier Products company. How do you? Is this a full-time job? Is this something you go in on a daily and every other day basis, or you get an idea and you call them, or you're working on? Do you work at home on a lot of these, in your own laboratory on a lot of these projects, and then you bring your formulas to them, and then you say this, and then they tweak it, and you work with them? Give me an idea of how your relationship as a consultant to, or as a partner with,
Right.
Premier Products, how does that work?
The answer to your question is yes. Skin Illustrator, as a product, is owned by Cinemakeup Inc. That's me. We are a separate company from Premier Products, but we are partnered in its manufacture and distribution.
I see.
So the work that happens on the pallets, the colors, happen 9 times out of 10 in the field while we're working.
Yes.
Many times you're working and you're trying to create a color, or someone will walk up to me in a trailer and go, do you have something like that? And if I can't get them to it, I'll make a note of it.
Right, right.
Because obviously there's a color there that it doesn't exist somewhere in the
Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
Now, I try not to do a color dead for dead, because people I'd have a collection of individual colors that did one job.
Yes.
So if I can't mix it within 2 or 3,
Yes.
that's when I'll consider looking at it as an individual color. That's one way they come about. Other ways they've come about is just from my life experience, like the Necromania palette, and
Yes.
using your cosmetics and going,
yes.
after a number of years, I want that in a tattoo color.
Yes.
To work in conjunction or alone,
Yes.
or in any combination
Yes.
with Joe Blasco Cosmetics or any other cosmetic line.
Yes, yes.
Because as you know, the best makeups are not done with one thing, they're usually a conglomerate.
Absolutely. And that's what we teach in the makeup schools. And we're using all form of makeups. We're all brands of makeup. It's not
Beautiful.
just Joe Blasco products.
Right.
You know, because
And I've seen that,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
admire it a
yeah,
great deal.
yeah, thank you.
Because you're probably the only one doing it, other than perhaps Marvin Westmore's school
yes,
in town here.
Yes.
And just to get on a soapbox for just a moment, those that aren't are doing their students a horrendous disservice. Because I've had a graduate of one of these schools, not to be named,
yes.
say to myself and friends of mine, well, where do you buy lipsticks? Kind of my same reaction, Joe.
Where do you buy
Where do you buy a
lipstick?
lipstick?
Oh, my God.
Well, there's a store behind an alley. Anyhow, I digress.
Let's not go
So
there.
let me get back.
That's the subject of an entirely different show.
Correct. So once I have an idea, I will start to think of it in terms of color palette.
Yes.
Sometimes I've thought of it in terms of a general idea and created the label first.
Yes.
Because through that, the creative juices start to move and you start going,
Yes.
that's what I couldn't put a
Yes.
word to, but I understand where I'm
Yes.
going now.
Yes.
And then I'll start to mix the colors myself. I actually mix all color master batches myself from this standpoint. Again, not to get on a soapbox, but over the years I've called various companies and said, there's this color you have, and I have another one of it, and they're
don't
not
match.
even close.
Yes.
And usually the answer is, well, we followed the recipe. Well, I'm sorry, but the kind of faces I work on, don't want to hear that you can't match the color.
Yes, exactly.
Get it on my face and get me out the
That's right.
door. So, as far as I'm concerned, the manufacturer's job is to be going through the angst of making that color come as close as possible, if not improve it.
Absolutely. Try to hit
To
it right
help
on the
me,
head.
help me.
Yes.
Help me get these actors out. Help me get them out of the chair because they don't want to be there.
And part of that is making certain that the colors match from batch to batch.
Correct. So I spend a great deal of time, even colors that are created and formulated to the 10,000th of a gram.
Yes, yes.
Okay, and you know this yourself.
Yes, yes.
Doesn't mean that the next batch of pigment you get in
It's gonna
will
be the
match
same.
it.
Absolutely.
It's going to be the same.
So it has to be adjusted.
So it has to be adjusted.
This is where experience in chemistry and experience in compounding comes in. I have the same lady working in my laboratory that has been with me for 19 years.
Ooh, nice.
And every time we get pigment in from one of these pigment companies,
Yeah.
whether it be liquid or powder or whatever, it's always different.
Yep.
It's never, not always, but
Right.
sometimes it's different. And she'll mix it up, or the speed of the mixer might have been different, or the temperature of the batch may have been
Yep.
different, or the milling may have been different.
Yep.
And it's not going to match.
Right.
So these people who've been with me so long know,
Mm-hmm.
okay, if it's this way, then I have to add a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that. So,
Yep.
it's always experimenting. And this is what a professional makeup company will do for you. Now, cosmetic companies in general that are across the board that sell makeup to the society,
Right.
through department stores, really have no concern about whether it matches from batch to batch.
None at all.
Because firstly, the amount of pigment that's in any of the liquid makeups, you could put any number of any shade from 1 to 10
Correct.
on almost any skin, and it's going to disappear because there's no pigmentation percentage
there.
of pigment. But when you're working in the professional motion picture and television industry, it's got to be the same all the time.
Right.
And that's why having someone like you with Premier Products, overseeing it, inventing it, checking it out, making the batches yourself,
Correct.
is so important. This is what I do. My nose is I'm always looking in batches. Well, not so much anymore because I've got people now that have been doing it so long, like I said,
Right.
that they look in and
But they
they're
know
like-
how you think.
They know how I think, exactly.
And that's the important part. It's
Yep.
interesting, early on in Skin Illustrator, people would say, well, why did you make Skin Illustrator? And I said, well, not to knock anybody, there were two other companies out there, they're both fine companies,
they're
run by
excellent
fine
companies.
people. But I wanted something different, and no one was willing to go there.
Uh-huh.
I wanted something different because it was my behind, with my back to camera, fixing a face or trying to fix something quickly. And it was my behind getting talked to by the AD of, can you get out of there? Can you get out of there? And if I had to mix something from scratch, that was the wrong place to be doing it.
Yes,
I needed something closer
yes,
so that you can get there faster.
yes.
Before the director goes,
Fast. That's the key.
Fast.
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 Speed.
Yep.
And I found that that's so important. This is what we try to teach our people, our makeup people, our students. You can take all day long and do a wonderful makeup, but why?
exactly.
Work quickly. Do a wonderful makeup. Let your tools do the job for you.
Yep.
And they can't do a good job unless the tools are high quality.
Well said.
Okay. I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to break right now just for a second. We're going to be right back with Kenny Myers right after these words. Don't go away.